Buenos, everybody. Welcome back to the Gran Torino. Delighted you could join me. Before we get started, don't forget, press the like button, press the subscription and the bell, and you'll be reminded of future conversations here on the Gran Torino. Before I introduce my next guest, I want to thank you all for your continued support. And why don't you head over to the Gran Torino website, World Wide Web, grantorino.ie, and check out our store and help buy the merch to keep the platform elevated so we can give you more background and insight to these impending cases. So my next guest, I'm delighted to introduce to you. I'm sure many of you online are well aware. Myself and Dustin have a bit of history going back with the Q phenomenon, but we bounced cross paths intermittently. And I'm delighted to bring him back onto the Gran Torino tonight. Dustin, thank you for joining me, sir. How are you?
I'm doing really well, Rowan. It's good to see you again, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Great stuff. I was just explaining to you there earlier on the way I'd like to frame this conversation, this short, brief background to the Epstein. And we're just going to focus on the Epstein without going too far back and just lay the breadcrumbs for what's actually being released, as in Epstein's being charged, he's been denied bail, and now the connections with Ray Chandler. But first, let me just section it over then again with the Mueller report finally finished and the impeachment dead and buried now. The investigation, as Jim Jordan referenced yesterday, maybe it's time to start investigating how the failed dossier was actually instigated, i.e. what was paragraph 1 of the FISA report. This is what actually launched the initial case, and this will be seen to be the fruit of the poisonous tree, that all other charges thereon after will be null and void because the investigation was open under false premise. And we know John Durham, who was appointed by Special Counsel, Adjutant General Barr, who appointed John Durham, is progressing well ahead, further expected than in his investigations leading to criminal federal prosecutions, as revealed by Joe DeGenova late last night, that he was intimating that the DECLASS of the FISA investigation will start tomorrow. Dustin, your thoughts?
You know, I'm excited to see that the Q movement has been vindicated in this sense. I mean, there is a little bit of a sense of I told you so going around. I can see that. I don't encourage that way of thinking. I want to focus kind of on the victims, for one, Epstein's many victims, and the injustice that's been going on for quite a long time. But now we're starting to see, if it helps if you think of this as a mafia movie, because we're starting to see, like, he's being threatened even within the jail cell, and he was found in a fetal position, curled up with marks on his throat, crying, supposedly like a suicide, even though he hasn't yet had his appeal going through. So I don't think it was really a suicide. I mean, these are the kind of things, because this guy has a lot of dirt on a lot of powerful players. They're very much panicked right now because of who's in charge, you know, President Trump. So I am very excited to see that. And I want to focus kind of on justice for the victims, on headline news, going straight after the Clintons, even implicating Obama, things like this. Everything we've been talking about, high-level arrests, it's all coming. Yeah,
absolutely. Checking in with some of the chans and just seeing some of the drops coming out there. You've seen the Guantanamo, the Q operatives out in the Guantanamo Bay showing after Q dropped. The reference to Guantanamo has now been fully refurbished and is ready to take visitors. I mean, it's all starting to line up what I spoke about last year, what you were well about last year, even the year before. It's like 2 years waiting to get to this point of understanding, but finally with mainstream talking about it. Let's delve into a little bit, and if we will, we'll go through the NXIVM and the Chandler connection. NXIVM having been proven to be a sex cult, right? A provable sex cult that's hit mainstream, that's involved a Hollywood actress named Alison Mack, poor connections to Keith Raniere, and then a host of global elite females that were branded and inducted. So it's now proven to be a human trafficking case with connotations of child sex trafficking. Lead us in then to what's expected from Ray Chandler and the impending royal scandal that's unfolding now.
I talk about over the window a lot because you kind of have to understand the context. Years ago, at least here, fake news was not a known term. Now everyone knows what fake news is. Years ago, human trafficking was not a common term, but now everyone knows. Deep state was not a common term. Now everyone knows. Child trafficking is next on that list. And NXIVM and Weinstein, these were things that shifted that Overton window. We're talking about sex scandals. We're talking about abuse of power. Now we're talking about cults and sex scandals involving widespread abuse of power and an industrial scale sort of trafficking system. Next thing is over to the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation and some of the treasonous acts, some of the selling out of even SAP level programs, and I think human trafficking as well of children.
Yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to charge too far forward into the projections of the Clinton investigations, because you're well aware Charles Ortell's been doing forensic accounting analysis on the Global Health Initiative and how the Jefferson Library morphed into this huge Ponzi scheme that, in essence, funds deep state and funds why it's human trafficking. So let's not go too dark down to the rabbit hole. Let's, for my mainstream audience over here, let's stick to what's known. As we say, the NXIVM scandal has been proved to be a sex cult. Ray Chandler is breaking out, and there's talk now of Robert Maxwell's daughter, Giselle Maxwell, and her tie-in and lead-in as a madam for Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, and we know that they were involved with some underage girls on the island. We've known for a long time. So, you know, when you say stick to the mainstream, it kind of is, because when Rachel Chandler comes out, she's operating as one of the procurement types, another younger version of Ghislaine Maxwell, but whose dad was like a super spy, apparently wrote a book and everything for Israel. It's a complicated story, which, you know, that has its own potential connotations and scary end results. But talking about Rachel Chandler, she operates at least one modeling agency. The MO seems to be starving young, depressed-looking children, and some of those children have who knows where they are now. Past, you know, agent models that they were agents for, and it's going to be the next NXIVM. We've talked about this for quite a while in the Q movement. We've got a lot of dirt on this girl already, just waiting to come out. You know, pictures from Epstein's plane with Bill Clinton, things like that, other big players. It fits
Prince
all.
Andrew. Sorry, Prince Andrew, Dustin. I mean, it's been reported here.
There were both pictures of both of them. She was with Bill Clinton as well at one point on the Lilith Express. So, you know, Prince Andrew, I mean, there's I can't remember the other ones. I think some other major players and celebrities were pictured with her at one point as well.
Yeah, well, to give you the latest one, the one that really sickened me, and I think it's already on the chance. I think it'll be proven. It won't be discredited. Is Tarantino's latest picture that dropped.
I haven't seen that one yet. I just got up. I was out late to a dinner with Andrew.
You'll catch up on that. I won't speak about anybody else there, but everybody else, you'll see the Tarantino stuff coming out. So with that little assuasion, let's steer people's attention towards the Hollywood elite. They're all being linked or being tied back in now, because what Jeffrey Epstein did was he operated a snaring machine. He got these big players, stars. If you wanted to go progress, he would ensnare you in a sex trap or a honey trap. And there was different levels of entrapment and different players, but he was friends with the global elites, global actors. Don't want to throw any assertions till the source, the sauce, as we say, Dustin, drops. But there's some major players that have been screaming the loudest and screaming long and hard now against President Trump to delay these.
And you mentioned Hollywood, even the entertainment industry. Kind of one of those that she was pictured with was Eminem, I believe. So, you know, just that. One of the people that have been speaking out loudest against our president, people like that, just repeatedly seems to be a pattern of those who scream the loudest often have these questionable ties to possible human trafficking. So, we're coming full scale, and I think that Overton window is ready for it now.
100%. President Trump's rallies are seen to be storming ahead, and looking at the nonsense on CNN and MSDNC, or DNC, as it should have been more colloquially known as, they're polling already that President Trump is way behind on scales, leading behind Bernie Sanders, behind Sleepy Joe. Sleepy Joe, I like to smell children's hair. I mean, how as you say, the Overton wind is shifting, but they refuse to acknowledge it. They are going to, because the narrative is lost after the failed Mueller report. Impeachment is out of the question. They can't surf to the 2020 election on impeachment charges. The duck is on land. So to be exposed now for whatever it's, well, even the major players inside the DNC, we're going to be looking now at Hillary Clinton's investigation and the emails going back to the 33,000 that we've bandied about it. Julian Assange being held in the UK in a high-level security prison. Do you think that extradition to bring him to the United States to face charges and possible other information on discovery of his case being brought forward?
You know, I suspect that the extradition will happen. It'll be part of this overall plan. I can't see Assange being allowed to die or anything like that. I mean, I really hope not. He's a major player, and he wouldn't deserve that. And he's very useful to the overall justice phase, as Q was talked about, when we start bringing out all of this evidence. And going into the election, We have major investigations into Epstein, human trafficking, leaks to the Clintons. We have major investigations into the Clintons and Obama for treason, trying to throw a coup, trying to overthrow the election, this whole Russian collusion. And that pendulum swung so far. The energy is now swinging very far back the other way, and those investigations are going to be very serious.
Well, just to remind our listeners that the investigation was initially, well, it was probably brought out, not to go too far deep into the queue, but when Admiral Rogers went to the Trump Tower and informed then candidate Trump that he was being spied upon, that the use of what's known now that we understand as the hammer will indeed be found to be going all the way back to the administration, by Obama's administration. And there on in, let's see how deep it will go. Will they investigate the birth, what they call it, the birth certificate? His birth certificate, the numerous scandals that have permeated his administration, him and Sleepy Joe, Uranium One, only the start with Sleepy Joe's son being investigated for dealings in foreign elections with the Ukrainian, getting a prosecutor failed, and there's a whole raft of stuff to come out. But which part of the dam cracking force, Dustin, do you see happening?
Which parts are going to crack?
I mean, with the FISA, I suppose we don't know which.
Well, you're going to see the major inroads into corruption. You're going to see the major inroads into treason and into sort of the human trafficking investigation. That's going to catch so many of the major players. I mean, the investigation goes both ways, except we actually have dirt on them. They have nothing. So they had their chance. Now we get our chance, and we're going to hit them really hard going into the election. And maybe they have the fake news paid off, and they'll say that they're winning, but no one's going to show up to their events. No one's going to, they're not going to be able to fill up a gymnasium, much less like a small restaurant or something. President Trump's going to continue to draw crowds up to 1 million people at a time. There's nothing. They have no chance in hell of winning unless President Trump is killed or something. And I really hope that doesn't happen. I don't think it will.
I just want to tie back this into now the copyright infringement, the copyright bill that President Trump just recently signed, in effect saying that nobody can censor a meme, giving carte blanche to the memes being opened up to be used, because the algorithms in Google, YouTube, Twitter, and the various other social media platforms, their algorithms can't read these memes. So they're crunching down on conservative viewpoints. I was recently on with SGT. His numbers are being absolutely decimated because of his truth-telling and his informative. Many numerous YouTube channels being censored. We have our own Gemma O'Doherty over here in Ireland, who's currently stationed outside Google HQ, and I see that phenomenon growing from Silicon Valley as Mark Dice has recently headed down there too to start questioning his violations and with more interaction with human beings as opposed to algorithms deciding your fate.
Yeah, and I kind of know the response I would get if I went to the building and asked them about it. They would smile and say something that was a lie and just tell me to go about my business. So rather than that, I'm trying to bring influencers like us, media people like us, truth tellers together. Where we go one, we go all for a major legal action. And I hired a super attorney, Todd McMurtry, to help do that. I don't know if you saw the interview I did with the National.
I watched it, yeah, very good.
Yeah, you know what happened from that interview, and the one I did with Craig at Just Informed Talk, and Rick was blessed to teach that same day, 3 of them at once. But from that, we now have like a dozen or more meetings tonight, influencers, major channels and such. We're going to get together and just hash out some questions and answers, and talk about whether or not we could actually pull this off as a team. I mean, between that group, there's millions of people already and in potential reach. I mean, this Stop It Burning movement, stop digital book burning is kind of what it is. I think that's the appropriate cue and truth media and just anyone who cares about free speech response to this. I think now with what he's doing at the highest levels with the antitrust and what's going on at the lower levels with the people's energy and anger, and they're just tired of it, right? They're tired of the globalists, they're tired of the sellouts, they're tired of the bullying, the spying, and of course the censorship. People are ready. I think we could win this. Very
good. Just before you're not off, you recently produced a book, the Q Phenomenon book, and just for anybody that's skeptical still of the Q phenomenon, even though there's numerous proofs, abounding, depending on your source of information. I like to watch, as we know, his productions are very good. Or X22 report, people are giving you kind of an overlay of the battle strategy as it's unfolding. Sure, if you're not too familiar or not keeping abreast of the Q posts. Not to steer too deep, not to steer back in too deep, But it was the Q post that gave us the understanding about Miss Fudd. Miss Fudd was recently spoken about in the Mueller reports investigation. I don't know which Republican senator asked the question, but it'll be found that Miss Fudd was in actuality a Western asset, not a Russian asset. And that will tie in with the Five Eyes being exposed for all spying on a sitting president and sanctioned by Obama, May, and I'd say possibly the New Zealand Prime Minister as well, because they're involved in the Five Eyes operation.
Yeah, and these are, let's be clear, I mean, these are potential acts of war. I don't think it's going to come to that. I don't think that's the course that we will take. But what they've done is so bad that some of this stuff may never come out into the public media. I think we'll know about it, those of us who are really following closely, we'll find out, but I don't think it's ever going to be mainstream media because this could be an act of war. I do think that those intelligence agencies are either going to be disavowed and justice, at least somewhat face-wise, public appearing justice will be done on them, or something of that nature, maybe some sort of punishment for them economically. But we're not going to go to war over it. But what they've done is very dishonest, and they've broken up trust, all of them.
I kind of split off. We jumped off on a tangent. Speak to me about the book, how that came about, and it's selling. It did really well on Amazon. Before I think that too got censored as well, did it?
It did. It got 300 something confirmed purchases where the reviews were just dropped off. And I think the timing was because we're kind of facing neck and neck with the Andy McCabe Deep State book. And we won. We crushed that book. Obviously, whatever you think of Q, it's more popular than the Deep State's narrative. And mostly it's just like a question, Socratic method thing. But, the book did well. We pissed off the mainstream media. The entire national mainstream media attacked us. Even some international media attacked us. Even RT did a video piece. NBC did a video piece. It just shows that when we work together, we can kick some butt, take some names, and win, take some territory, and piss them off.
So my final thought then, just before I sign off, and I'll let you go before, just kind of cognizant of the time, I do hope my American audience were able to understand my thick, broad accent, because I wasn't concentrating. I was very looking forward to speaking with Dustin and just trashing out this conversation. So just to tie off then on mainstream's narrative, the Mockingbird mainstream media, as it's affectionately known on your side of the water, we've got treasonous RTE over here pumping out, and they've been caught out, editing information. When Noel Edmonds was recently over here, he was being interviewed on on our public state broadcaster. He was part of his conversation with one of the broadcasters was that he was for Brexit. He was a Brexiteer. But when that interview transposed to their online channel, that section had been edited out and pieced back together, but that was brushed over. So they've been caught meddling and publicly exposed for telling fake lies. I'm sure there's a raft of other information I'm not covering here, but just little snippets for our audience. So, Dustin, I don't wind it up there. I want to thank you very much for joining me again today. I hope you join us back after the storm, the avalanche of exposure from Devon Nunes's numerous requests for the declassification. And I believe the storm is upon us. We've been waiting so long.
I agree. And I think we're about to the justice phase. Thank you so much, Owen, for having me on. You and your audience have a wonderful day. God bless you, sir. Take care. Don't forget, press the like button, press the subscription button, and hit the Rogan's up button if you're of a mind. Thank you for joining us.